Hello and welcome to the Film Ireland podcast. I'm here with Aoife Crehan. We're in the Lighthouse Cinema as her film The Last Rite is screening inside with a packed audience.
I think the Irish sense of humour is just brilliant, and I love the way in like the kind of darkest moments of despair someone will crack the funniest joke, and it actually just makes you feel better. Like it is like a kind of medicinal pill, but I always think it's just brilliant. I mean, I've been living in the UK for the past 10 years, and I come home loads. So I kind of have one foot basically in each country, but I'm always struck by the sense of humour, like of everyone likes it here, and the kindness and the kind of the, I don't know, it's quite distinctive, I think, the Irish sense of humour, and I don't think there's anything like it, so it cracks me up all the time. So I definitely wanted to kind of bottle it a little. I wanted to bottle what I love about Ireland. And that is the sense of humour, the kindness, the landscape. I mean, I think when we were so lucky, we got to film actually in complicate for real, up in Rathlin Island, and that was one. I think you have to probably pick and choose your fights as a director. I probably fought all the time, but definitely I knew that the big one, the really crucial one, was that we had to film down there because. And up in Rathlin, because there's a quality to the light in complicate and in Inchydoney and on that bay that you just can't cheat. Like nothing could, because there was like location managers that were trying to get us, they're suggesting Wicklow and Silver Strand, and I was just like, oh my god, no, like just no, just because it's like it's hard. You can't put your finger. It gives and for me, and also like the landscape and the light up in Rathlin is then a different thing in itself. And for me, it kind of the landscape and nature is a part of the story, and a really important part of the story, because Daniel has come back. He's been living in New York and he's come back, and it's like, it's kind of like, it's definitely, an element of, with Padraig dying beside him in the plane, an element of, fate or destiny, but it's kind of like he's healed by the journey itself and the landscape. And I think definitely when I'm having a hard time, nature helps like hugely. And
also Cork people love seeing Cork on the screen.
Oh my god, it's so, I mean, West Cork is
so beautiful.
Stunning. It's so stunning.
I think a lot, like I'm originally from Cork,
oh my
because
god,
I'm allowed, I'm allowed like make comments about what people from Cork like, sort of, even though I sound like I shouldn't. But I just think for so long I think it has been overlooked as a hub for things, and things like the Young Offenders did a really good job of putting it on the map. But I do think, like, poor people love going, look at Clonakilty,
it's so cinematic.
Look how pretty it is.
Yeah, like the curve of the like roads and the all the nooks and crannies. It's like real kind of like, I feel like you can actually see, the way the shape of Ireland is on the map with all like the kind of the teddy bear bits and stuff. Like I feel like you can like see that, and like kind of in the curves around in West Cork. It's like. But I was so thrilled that it went down so well in Cork, because it was like, Cork people judging it. I was always afraid that like people from Cork would be like, oh, he's driving the wrong way there, kind of in terms of way. But but that was amazing that they embraced it and loved it. It was like, and also the massive relief was we have got such a talented actor, Samuel Bottomley.
He is unbelievable.
Oh my god, he's a star. Yeah,
I have notes and I'm like, X's next to his name. I was like, you can't forget to bring him up, because he is just such charisma.
Oh my god,
such comic timing, such charm. Like, there's so many lines and he just sells them. Like, it's a kind of very deadpan. Like, he is amazing. And two very established actors. Like, you're kind of in the midst of them. It's very easy to get overshadowed or do that. But he really just holds his own, and he's like, I am here. This is me doing this role.
Oh, he is such a rare talent. Like he because if anyone sees the film and then hears him speak, because he's from Bradford and he's got this thick Bradford accent.
I saw his name Bottomley.
Yeah,
watched me and I was like, Oh, he's not from. Because he's not. I thought it was.
He's not from Cork. Yeah, he honestly, he's so like that he could handle the accent and autism. It's just like and I mean, I was blown away by him in his first audition tape. It was just like, oh my god, who is that? Because it was funny. We saw some incredible actors. For it, and a lot of them were externalizing, like Louis, or the traits of autism, or the kind of what you expect of autism, whereas Samuel had just completely internalized the character, and so it was such a quiet, understated, subtle, but so much was going on with him. It was like you couldn't take your eyes off him, and it was and I just thought, and he was like 17 when we filmed, and to have he's just such a natural talent. His instincts are just like spot on. And he and similar with the accent, we worked with the dialect coach, and she did a really interesting thing which was so helpful. She adapted his script basically so that everything was spelt out phonetically for him, and then and I had that script as well, and kind of when we because she was based in the UK, so when we were shooting in Ireland they were Skyping, but actually Skype was great because she could spell out, in the little speech bubble, she could spell the words out phonetically as they were going, and it's like and then actually my brother-in-law from Cork, wonderful Dave O'Neill, he gave him some kind of, because I wanted him to speak to like just a real authentic Cork person, so they would just kind of have chats and stuff, and he was, I mean, I think Sam was going places for sure.
Oh my god, like he just got me about 4 or 5 different times, like they would just, and again you said that he just internalized everything and you could just see it, like, and your heart would be breaking at these moments, like, and again that's what I thought, like it's hard to be in a room with those two. It's hard to tackle something as kind of big as autism, and people have certain expectations. It's hard to be in a room with two such stars, being so young and just starting out in your career, and then to like, oh my god, like just the way he dealt with things, like he got me about 4 times. I was like, like a Wednesday afternoon. I was like,
well, he was I mean, as I said, we did, like, I mean, I had done tons of research on autism, because I didn't set out to write a script about autism or with an autistic character. Louis kind of appeared pretty fully formed. He just really was Louis, and then Louis happened to have autism, and so I thought, okay, God, I need to find out about this. So I just did tons of research, and then got really great and valuable help from the National Autistic Society in the UK, this wonderful man called Chris Pike, who's they're like media consultant. He's autistic himself, and I mean, Chris just blows apart every assumption you have of autism. It's like he's a stand-up comic for one thing in his spare time, and we ended up he had actually taken a year, taken a sabbatical from the National Autistic Society to go and teach in China. So during rehearsals we were Skyping from China, and I was sending Chris tapes of Samuel, and then Chris would watch them, and then Sam and I and Chris would Skype and chat about it. And it more kind of Chris kind of, he gave me confidence as a writer, because it was like all of that research that I'd done to the point where before Chris had read the script was on the right track. Because one of the things I was really conscious of was in everything I'd seen, I was really moved by the amount of parents that were really frustrated by the kind of Rain Man stereotype of autism, that it's like that was what was kind of mainly out there, and so I really wanted to just let Louis be Louis, and and like he's Louis first, and actually that we got really great help from the Irish Society for Autism as well, and they have a wonderful mantra which is personality first, autism second. And so that was kind of our approach. It's like, it's Louis first, and it's like, Louis is Louis, and so that was and we just really wanted to, I mean, just as every single person is different, like you and I are completely different and have different experiences, react differently to things, so does each autistic person. So it's like, no, I think there's a saying that, if you've met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person. It's like, so, like no one is, and so we kind of
so different. Like any kind of neurological disorder like that, or any issue that comes up, like it presents so differently, and even the way it presents in young people compared to old people, compared to women, compared to men. It's just, completely different. And I do think there's it's so easy to stereotype about stuff. So I thought that's what this film did amazingly well. It's just present and really address it in a way that was very informative, but not overly expositional.
Okay,
like,
cool.
Yeah, because I thought, like, because as a writer as well, I'd be aware of exposition, and you'd be like, oh, don't do it. But I was like, it's very natural, and it's people correcting people, but in a really funny way. And it's part of the joke. And I was like, oh, that's really good. I actually have another little note that I wanted to chat to you about, the dialogue.
Oh, yeah.
Where it was like, I was enamored with the dialogue. Like, when I was there, it was just like, you got the Irish humour, you got the snappy comebacks, you got the relationships really fully formed, and the characters really fully formed, where I think sometimes that's where certain things, especially films around issues, don't necessarily deliver in that same way. That you really, like, you're there watching these characters for a very short period of time, and you get a sense of who they are, you get a sense that they're real, that they're three-dimensional, that, you know, that we're watching them now, but that they've existed before.
Oh, great. Yeah. I mean, they really did exist for me. Like, kind of, I don't know, they feel more like friends than characters, if that makes sense. Like, I mean, I actually wrote the first outline for this 8 years ago, and it was very different. It was, and it almost got the screenplay funding from the Irish Film Board, and then didn't, and I was gutted about that at the time, but actually it worked out really well, because I ended up working in a TV development company, which broke my heart at the time a little bit, because I really wanted to write, and I felt like I was kind of in limbo, but the amazing thing about it was I read hundreds and hundreds of scripts, and then when it came, basically the characters just wouldn't go away. Like, it was like I never thought I'm definitely going to come back and write. I was like licking my wounds after the first kind of rejection, but it's like, but they just literally wouldn't go away. And it was Daniel. I was on a plane coming back from somewhere, and Daniel kind of came into my head, and he was in New York. And I was like, oh gosh, I didn't know Daniel had moved to New York. Like, kind of in the same way as if a friend, you know, you just find out a friend had. Yeah. But it was like, so it was that kind of thing. So they were just kind of, they definitely felt very real for me. And like Louis, I mean, Louis was just he was just himself kind of from the get-go. And that's why I think I was so thrilled to have found Samuel. And actually the casting process, I was surprised by how stressful and exciting that was, but in the sense that I knew Sam was Louis from his first audition tape, but we were seeing loads of people obviously, and there was some concern about his accent. Because, you know, his thick Leeds accent, how the hell is this 17-year-old? I know, it's so mad, and it's like, how the hell is this 17-year-old going to pull off a Cork accent of all accents, and, you know, autism? So we kind of had to go through a fair few hoops, him and I. Like, we did a workshop audition that I filmed for the financiers and stuff, but it was in that there was a few weeks of where I was kind of like, it can't not be him. Like, you know, it just can't not be him. But oh my God, what if they don't let it be him? But luckily everyone kind of, you know, was blown away by him. And actually, really interestingly, and this is a good tip, I think, for the auditioning process. So when in one of his auditions, his first audition, so we'd seen his tape, and I was so excited. When he came in then to meet us in person, I was sitting beside, we had a wonderful casting director, Louise Kiley, who's just brilliant.
Oh, she's fantastic.
Oh my God, yeah. So I was so lucky to get her. And then, so Louise and I were sitting close to the camera, and Sam was just in front of us, close to the camera. And the other producers, and Pippa was like at the far end of the room, so further away from Samuel. And then Samuel did his reading, and Louise and I were both kind of blown away. We were like, oh my God, it was like, he's just magic. And Pippa instantly thought, she was like, I'm really sorry. She's like, I hate saying this, but I don't think it's him. Mm-hmm. And I was so kind of devastated and confused. I was like, how is it not him? How could you not see what? But then I realized it was actually what Sam does, which makes him such a special actor, is he's so quiet in his performance that he's giving it all to camera. It's like, so he gives, it's like he's internalized it so much that he's just kind of being. And Pippa was too far from him. It was like she was the other end of the room. She wasn't seeing, because we were seeing we were by the we were camera basically, and so I was like, okay, just watch his tape, just see, like watch his tape and then see. And then she watched the tape and she was like, oh my god, yes, I see it. So it was kind of, but
that was a relief.
Yeah, it was such a relief. But it's also interesting in that you could overlook, or you could be swayed by the kind of, oh my god, it's, you know, maybe she's right, maybe it's, or you, and it's kind of, and actually it was literally just a case of where she happened to be sitting in the room at the time.
And isn't that amazing? Like, just say if you were sitting a little bit further back and didn't have your glasses on,
what you would
it's
miss.
very simple. Like it just, again, it's like that kismet thing where you're like, you really have to be aware of things, and it's simple to miss things.
I think for and that's for cinema, it's like when you have an actor, and I think this was the case with all our actors, but that you could just watch them doing nothing. Like, I think that was like, I mean, Sam sitting there looking out the window was mesmerizing, and it's like, and I think that's the real. And same with, I mean, Niamh Algar is a fantastic actress. It's like
she's has so much presence and charisma in their own very different ways, which really gel together well as a unit. Like as someone watching it. Like, I mean, they were very well written characters. That was very, very clear, but they personified those very well as well.
Oh, good. Yeah. And I think the dynamic with Michiel then, he's a wonderful actress, and also Michiel is a really generous actress.
And does he have an American accent in real life?
He did. Well, I was always like, my mouth was always open when on set sometimes, and he'd be on the phone to his family and he'd be speaking Dutch, and I'd be like, what? It's like, you're not American. But he lives in he's Dutch, 100% Dutch, but lives in New York, and so his accent it's an American, like he's not American, but he was doing an American accent, and I would, to me, his American accent was so natural and so good that I would just forget that he was. And it was also, that was really funny sometimes, because sometimes there were a few words, and especially the Irish phrasing or syntax, which just, you know, kind of were, he'd have to ask me kind of to, you know, so what is, or sometimes maybe if he wasn't quite saying it, and it was a kind of, it was a language thing, but because he's so and he's so kind of, he looks so Hollywood as well, you kind of, I was just, you know, I still kind of see him as and he lives in New York as like an American, so there were some funny moments like that. But he is an incredibly
say he went down a hit in Clonakilty and was Rathlin.
Oh yeah, definitely.
They get a few points off for him in the local. So charming.
And he was as an actor, he's really generous and really supportive, and that was because it was quite a tough schedule that we had. That was it was 25 days, and 3 of those were travel days, and we were going from Clonakilty up to Rathlin Island, so that's
different. That's a lot of different kind of setups. Did you have to go back and do many pickups afterwards? We did landscape pickups. We basically went back in, and there was a mad panic because the weather was changing, and so in March it was like the leaves were starting to come back on the trees, but we needed shots of the Volvo travelling through the landscape, which we hadn't had time to get, basically. And that was another thing. I was I mean, we had 4 days total for shooting every single thing inside the Volvo and every single thing inside the van. And I was shocked by that at the beginning. You know, you kind of, you have to wrangle the schedule and everything. But I was like, oh my god, how on earth are we going to shoot? I mean, this is a road movie. How are we going to shoot? And obviously you do, and you kind of. But it meant that we didn't. And again, the cast and crew were amazing, and they really. And Shane, as a cinematographer, he was a real gift, because he's so quick and fluid and kind of. You know, and he loved the story and he loved the script, so he kind of was. He just was always coming up with solutions. It was like, because there is pre-production was like possibly the most stressful part of the process. Because there's so many spinning plates. Like, I often thought about that. I was like, how the fuck do you set a road movie in Ireland? And I was like, how the fuck does anyone do that? And when I thought it was a road movie, I was like, oh, how are you going to do that? But I was like, not one. And I was really like, how do you do this when you were watching it? And I was like, yeah, those are all completely valid and true things. You would not, like, there was not one thing that felt forced or felt too kind of cool. I was like, God, that was really good. I was like, oh, that was done really well.
Oh, good.
And even it was like, it's almost like kind of episodic. Because I was kind of watching out for that, because I always thought about it. I was like, oh, like, we have such a nice landscape, but it's so small.
But I was quite conscious of one. I didn't want to do a kind of a Hollywood, Irish version of Ireland. So I wanted it to look and feel real, like the kind of Ireland that we. But that so it is stunning, but it's stunning in a real way, and it's like So,
like, let's say, for example, leap year. You're like, come on now.
Where it's all kind of green, and like.
But also, like, everything that happens is just not something that would happen, and you couldn't sell it.
Yeah.
But I just thought, like, with this, I was just watching, going, okay, go on. And then it was like, no, every single thing that happened is completely true. Nothing was overly coincidental. It wasn't like, oh my God, a deer ran out in front of the house suddenly and we crashed and we had to do this. It was all very logical and had its place. Where I was like, well done.
Oh, good.
That was so well done.
Okay,
I
great.
had to say that because I was very impressed.
Oh, good. Well, thank you. I'm delighted. It was. It all kind of just. I think the beauty of a road movie is that you are following the journey. So there is a kind of a natural logic and progression to the story, in a way that you probably don't have with a film that never geographically doesn't move. So it kind of, that's the gift of a road movie genre, I guess. And it allows. Well, I really like genre actually, because I think it, for me, I just love characters, and I love I love dialogue, and so I think what genre
and that's
does,
the theatre.
Yeah, possibly.
Well,
And just growing up with the van, the commitments. I mean, that's why I was so chuffed to have Colm Meaney. But
he's amazing.
Yeah, and like I think there's a real Ireland does and dialogue so well. In so many plays, I think. And then the other thing, I really love Parks and Recreation. I absolutely love that. Like, I think I've seen every episode like at least 20 times. And The American Office, The Office with Steve Carell. Yeah. That is so good, especially from season 2 onwards. It really just gets into its stride.
And the same with Parks and Rec. It's season 2 onwards.
Season 2,
almost when it starts.
It's when they find themselves, kind of find their. But what I love about both of those, and I've watched. I can't count the hours. I probably spent at least a year of my life watching both of them. But the way the characters and the way the comedy just comes out of the characters, and it's like it's very. I love it. It's very inspiring, and I think with the genre, it's like you have the structure and the template there for the story, which gives you room to then have. Let the characters breathe and let them, because it's like the audience know that there is a beginning, middle, and end, and they're going on it. Because my mum would have growing up with like laser and extra vision, and whenever we'd be going out to rent a movie, which was always so exciting, but my mum would always be shouting afterwards, it's like, make sure it is a good story, I want a good story. And that was kind of, you'd ring her from the video shop and
it's kind of great in the little bio, and then you go see it and it's like, oh God.
But you'd also it's kind of, it was like it was just, you kind of think, well, surely every film has a good story, or surely every film sets out to have a good story, but definitely it's kind of story and character. And I love what I love about cinema is the kind of the momentum of it, like the motion of it, the movements, and so that's also why I was so attracted by a road movie. It's like you can have that momentum and that movement, and it's like
the constant beats, the character development over time, the bonding. But it's really good. But I want to chat to you a little bit about the development process, because I think that's very interesting. You wrote that script 8 years ago. That was first draft of it.
I wrote an outline that was very different, but it was the original idea, like kind of it was basically, I was inspired by a Radio 4 documentary that I heard about a man in Amsterdam who buries people that have known us to bury them, and I just thought that was so beautiful because he did it with real tenderness, and I wanted to do, I thought I probably wouldn't get the rights, and I wanted to do a version of it, my own version of it basically, and so the outline then was the kind of the same general idea, and it had Daniel and his brother and Mary, a version of Mary, but the story was really different, and it was just at outline stage. I think they were going at that time from Dublin to the Aran Islands. So, but then I didn't write the script until basically I had kind of a light bulb moment. It was like, if I'd written the script down, I don't think it would have been that good, to be honest, because I actually needed to go through a growing process, as naff as that sounds.
Yeah.
I in the interim between that outline and I was hoping it would get, it got support from the Irish Film Board initially, and they were encouraging it, and then it didn't get funding, and I was gutted at the time. I was really kind of devastated by that, so I was like kind of shoved the story aside and was like, and then kind of lost my confidence a little bit, and was working in TV development for a few years, which felt quite painful at the time because it felt like a limbo, and I felt like I was doing what,
facilitating other stories.
Yeah, and also it was that kind of thing of like, I should be happy because I'm in a creative role in a creative field, but it was like it just wasn't. It felt like such a kind of a compromise or kind of a safe, instead of being, because I think actually to write and direct, the first thing you need is brave. Yeah. Either like you need to be mental or brave, so I basically, what happened then, I was made redundant from that job. But after I'd read hundreds of scripts, and I hadn't, all the scripts that I was reading were really, there was so much crime, and also, to be honest, I was reading a lot of scripts. I was reading some amazing scripts because the company I worked for, which is Lookout Point actually now, and it was Lookout Point in its early days, so it had like a lot of high-end scripts coming in, like from the top writers, and it also had they were like, I worked for a head of development who was really interested in new writers, and so it was like also reading kind of fresh new scripts, but I was kind of slightly blown away by the amount of not very good scripts that I was reading, and they all had agents and stuff, and I was kind of like going, I know, when you get to that
stage, if you go into that development stage, you've already got an agent, you've already sold stuff, or you've already had work put on somewhere.
And I was just
get
like,
out of the blue.
Yeah, and I just was like, kind of, I was like, I know I can do this. I know I can kind of do this better, not in an arrogant way, but just to kind of. And then I got made redundant from that job, which at first was like, oh my.
That was probably as good as an MA in screenwriting.
Yeah, that was looking back, because we had to do.
MAs,
it was amazing because we had to do, and I had a really kind of tough boss who was, really, we had to do tons of script reports, and I loved reading the scripts, and I hated doing the script reports. I mean, I wasn't a great student at school, but it did kind of really sharpen my critical skills. And I think then I was made redundant, and then everyone else was telling me, like family and friends, to kind of immediately get another job quickly, ASAP, in TV, and people were setting up introductions and everything. And I just, like, and something inside you is like, I was like, the thought of doing that, like something like dying inside. So I just kind of thought, no, if I don't write now, I'm never gonna do it. And the last write was kind of bursting out of me. So I just kind of, and I just had fun. I think that was the turning point for me as a writer, was basically, I was like, before I'd always been kind of waiting for funding, or kind of applying for funding, and then being devastated when I didn't get it, and then kind of using that as a kind of, I must not be good enough. Whereas with the real turning point was, I was just like, I'm going to do this because I want to do it, and I love it, and it's, I can do anything I want in my free time right now, and this is what I want to do, and I just had fun, and it was like, and I loved the process of writing. I loved the characters, and I just kind of followed them, and I was just kind of happy, and so happy doing it, and it just kind of poured out. And then I took that draft, and I finished that draft. I was like, it just felt so great to have, that story kind of in a really raw state on the page. But I showed it to Pippa Cross, who I'd worked as an assistant for years ago, and she'd been exec producing my first short, and she'd been like really encouraging over the years. And then
is she with Deadpan? Is it?
No, she's her own company called Cross Day in London.
Okay.
Yeah, she was produced My Left Foot years ago, and
okay,
worked for
so
Granada.
Good,
yeah, when she was with Granada, and then she went out on her own, and then I also showed it to a friend in that TV company, Lookout Point. I was talking about, one of the really great things about that was I met this wonderful friend and producer, Casey Herbert. We actually job shared, and she she's the other producer. There's Pippa Cross, Paul Donovan, and Casey on The Last Right. And so I sent it to Pippa and to her, and they both loved it, and they both gave really great notes. And so then I kind of used their notes and did another draft, and I went back to Clonakilty to finish that. It took a few weeks off, and what I did during that whole time was, instead of everyone telling me to get another job on TV, I didn't want my creative brain to be used, because what was happening was when I was working in TV development, that side of my brain was too tired then at the end of the day to do my own stuff. So I knew I just wanted to focus on, I just loved The Last Ride so much, and it not like in a, you know, I don't know, it felt, I loved the feeling of it. I was like, I loved how it made me feel. And I took a job as a receptionist in a church, which was an amazing, which was good, because it meant that I could, you know, I didn't
be writing all day, and you kind of have an office to go to. It's like a free WeWork.
Or even my mind was free. Do you know what I mean? Like, even if I had to be, even if I couldn't physically write in the job, I could be thinking about it and daydreaming about it. So that was a kind of a critical decision in the end. And then what happened was I based on Pippa and Casey's notes, I did a draft that was kind of like my send out draft. So I thought, okay, this is now ready to go out into the world. And I did think at that point, I was like, now I'm ready for an agent. And I'd never tried to get an agent before that. I think I had flirted with a couple of agents when my first short film, 2Ps, and I'd met a couple after they'd seen it, but I wasn't ready then. And I know that kind of sounds like, because I think you know when you're ready for, and it's kind of, I think it's when you've made the decision that you're going to write just for yourself.
Yeah, but you had mentioned earlier about the instincts thing.
Yeah,
where I think it's when you learn to trust your instincts.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, I think the producers used to tell me, you know, you don't make everything into a fight, and I think yes and no. I mean, I think as a director, it's you need to fight for stuff, and but it's stuff that you believe in. And I think I made probably my biggest learning curve was actually on my second short film, through the mistakes I made on it. And that was interesting as well, as in kind of discovering what I felt comfortable with as a writer, director, and not. So then when it came to writing The Last Ride, and I realized actually the key to this is just to listen to my gut instinct, even in the writing process. Because it's funny, as a writer, you're you know, it's just you on your own, your pajamas and a cup of tea. And then when it comes to directing, suddenly there's 50 people in your face from like 7 o'clock in the morning till midnight, and there's just you don't get a second to yourself, like in pre-production and production. And I think it's really critical that you find a way to listen to everyone's, because you're working with so many talented people, so you can listen to their suggestions and be open to everything, but you're also open to yourself, and you've got to kind of always check back in. How does it feel? How kind of basically just your instincts are the only thing that you have, and if you're not listening to your instincts, then you're not creating anything new. I think it's like that's what makes stuff original, is if you kind of, it's your point of view. Otherwise it's like it could be anyone's. But that was definitely a lesson I had to learn, and it was an invaluable one. And even on that kind of instinct thing, I mean, we were so lucky. We had Shane Kelly, who shot Boyhood and works with Richard Linklater as our cinematographer, and that was such a dream. And we had just a really talented head of department, like Suzanne Kyo, did a really wonderful job on costume, and we were just really, really lucky. So I always wanted to know I figured there's only one shot to hear someone's own instincts before I muddy the water for them. And that's the same with like the actors and the heads of department. So it's like I always wanted to hear their first take on something, and then we could have a collaborative discussion. And then it's like you kind of listen to them, but also listen to myself, and then kind of go with that. Basically, it's like that wins out. That always wins out, like yourself. And same like working with the actors. I really love actors. I think they're really brave. And I think it's I used to want to be an actress when I was a teenager, but that was because I didn't really know. I was in love with the feeling. I was in love with the way films made you feel, but I didn't really know what a director did, and I didn't, even though I was writing a lot at the time of like little short stories and poems, I didn't really see myself as a writer, kind of. And I loved, and kind of my background is in theatre. like directing, like kind of not, I broke away from it really early, so it's like kind of amateur theatre directing, but I studied it at Trinity, and then had a really great experience working in the Edinburgh Fringe with the guys who went on to become Dead Cat Bounce. They're so cool. Oh my god, so hilarious, and they're just brilliant and so talented. And so we had a great time. They were called Los Albatross at the time, and that was a real kind of education in comedy, I guess. And then, but I love working with actors, and I then did kind of plays and like short plays, like in workshops in London, working with actors. But the main thing I always wanted to do, I wanted to hear. Like, I think actors, because their whole business is their instincts, like, and they more than anyone else, and they know that they have to listen to them, and so I think I always wanted to see an actor's first instincts as well, rather than, again, I never ever wanted to be telling them what to do, like you need to go here or do that. It was like kind of like go where you think you should go, and then that's the first step, and let's take it from there. It's like follow the actors basically. And Shane and I had established this really great way of working that I don't think was great for Johnny, our first AD. I think it made his life, Johnny Shaw, who's really great, and but I think it made his life more difficult because on my second short, where I kind of learned a lot through.
This is Empty?
Yes, which is, and a lovely cast. Yeah, film-based RTE. So and it had an amazing cast and crew, and the wonderful Hannah James is in it, but what I didn't, so I learned a lot by, in a way, doing the wrong thing. But
that kind of all gave you your skill set for the last right.
All
the mistakes that you get to make along the way, or like even things that you learn.
Well, completely, because it was like one of the mistakes I made there was I over storyboarded. And so I kind of had all these storyboards I plotted out before that meant then when we came to that, I was trying to kind of follow the storyboard or trying to, and I was ignoring the reality of what was happening on set or in front of me. And I think you've kind of, the crucial thing you've got to do is just, because everything changes all the time and things never work out as planned, and you've just got to kind of literally be in the moment, go with the flow. And so what Shane and I, we didn't really have shot lists. I mean, there were, for certain kind of key action scenes like the mixer exploding and the van chase, there were really basic storyboards, but there were we didn't even really do shot lists, except for I don't think we ever did one, to be honest. I mean, I might be misremembering.
If you have 25 days to do a shoot,
it was just like a kick. But what we did, which I think was much performance-wise was so much better, was the actors and I, we had a week's rehearsal, which was amazing, before shooting with Samuel, Michiel and Niamh, who played the three leads, and we got together and had a full week where they were kind of bonding and talked about character, and kind of, it meant we all had a shorthand when it came to set. And so when we get to a location, we do a rehearsal, and it would be just me and the actors would kind of run through a scene. I'd watch them, see where they wanted to go, what they wanted to do, and kind of, so we'd kind of rehearse it and block it like that, and then we'd bring Shane in, and Shane and I would watch it, and Shane would watch kind of what we had kind of decided was, and then Shane and I would talk about camera. So it was like camera was following the actors as opposed to us making the actors follow the camera.
That's a very interesting kind of way of staging it, I think, because certain people will be like, no, it has to be like this, but I mean, to go and have a bit of freedom with the performance, because sometimes it can be surprising and they're the best things.
Well, also I think it should always come from the actor. Like it should be like, if you were telling them, I mean, obviously there are certain, cases where they need to go to a certain place or they need to kind of be in a certain spot, but like the less you can do that, for me anyway, the better, because it's like, if it comes from the actor, then it's just more organic. It's like kind of, it's coming from whatever they feel like they need to do.
Perfect.
And also like, I mean, Michiel has just tons of experience of being on set and working with the directors. And this was my first film, so it was like, and he was really collaborative and really supportive, and he had great ideas. So it was kind of, I think if you're too rigid with your own preconceived ideas just because you think you have to be, or you think that's what a director does, it's like, oh my god, I need to know exactly what I'm doing when I get to set. I think that's kind of trying to be the idea of a director, rather than, I think, actually just listening to your actors and like your TOP and then kind of rolling with it a bit and kind of and I think if you know the characters inside out, you know what the and then obviously there's like, you know, the pressures of the schedule as well. It's like
and 25 days and location stuff and just bonkers.
Well, it was 25 days minus 3 days of travel. Because we actually went from Clonakilty up to Rathlin and we were then, and that was amazing, and I'm so grateful. The fair play to the producers, because everyone was telling us and them that, you know, this was crazy. It's like, surely you're not going to go to Clonakilty and Rathlin Island and, you know, here's a picture of Silverstrand Beach and Wicklow, and won't that do?
And I was going to say, I'm very conscious of time, because I know I'm keeping your time for so long, but I really wanted to get to the end of the development, because I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
So you were sending it out to agents?
Oh yeah, so and then I had I did milk all my contacts with came to the last drive, but there was you
get one bash at that as well, you know, especially if you're working in the industry.
And it's also, I hadn't done it. It was like a kind of, I knew I loved the last drive and I was proud of it and I wanted people to read it, so therefore I wanted to milk my contacts, and I hadn't done before. So I sent the script to a really lovely man called Niamh Algar, who's a kind of legendary TV producer in the UK. And he had shared an office, and I was working for Pippa Cross, the producer, as an assistant. Nigel shared an office, and so that's how I got to know him. And then he also worked at Lookout Point. And so anyway, I sent it to him and said, could you have a read of this? And if you think it's good, would you mind introducing me to an agent? And he was amazing. And he came back and he said he loved it, and he thinks it really has something. And he said, I've just sent it to one agent, and then he mentioned 2 names basically, and then I was like, okay, great, thank you. And then he came back and said, actually, the one person he planned to send it to wasn't, I can't remember what had come up, so he said, but I'm going to send it to Kathy King. And I knew of Kathy from working in the TV development. I kind of, because you're working with agent lists and writers lists a lot, so I kind of knew of her and her. She's Abby Morgan's agent. Her clients are amazing, and I was like, oh my god, and I was like, okay, well that's great, you're sending it to her, but kind of thing. But then anyway, and I was amazed. And I think, what makes Kathy an amazing agent is that even though she has such a massive client, it was like she was open to reading it, and she read it, and she was open to, and we met, and I was just kind of, I'm still kind of can't believe she took me, but she was really supportive, and she's a really amazing agent. She's kind of old school, I don't know, she's kind of but she was really supportive, and it was also, she was with Independent at the time, so actually she was my agent, and a really lovely, amazing agent called Kenna Abikri, and he's amazing and a real high flyer, and the two of them basically sent it out to loads of people, and they were kind of, they seemed amazed. I was certainly amazed. They just got the most incredible response from producers and from everyone. They're sending out for general reads and kind of people, and so so I just met loads of people, and then Baby Cow actually came on board, Gabby Tana, and that was amazing and so exciting. But then it came to a point where it was like, okay, Baby Cow were interested in doing it with Gabby, and then Pippa and Casey were also, and it was like, and then I'd actually worked for Paul as a script editor, Paul Donovan, the producer, before, and he was also working with Baby Cow, and so it kind of all seemed like this great perfect marriage, but it actually was a little bit too top heavy with producers, and it was like, I think there wasn't too many chefs, I don't think, and in the end then Gabby ended up stepping back and becoming executive producer for a while, and then it kind of just organically, I'll forever be grateful to her, because she had amazing notes. She's an amazing producer, and so I was just amazed that she was involved in the first place, but she had really, really great, her notes were really, they were simple and they were headline, and they were and actually in that kind of that draft that I'd written at the time, I had gone too far away. It wasn't right, and she was really instrumental in being like, this isn't about, you know, she was like, you need to take a step back and go back to kind of, you know, you need to take a moment and find it again. You know,
I've heard that of
rewriting.
writers so many times, and then they'll kind of almost write back to something that's close to the original one.
Yeah.
And they'll go in different directions, and then there'll be something in the original that they'll kind of go back to a lot. And there'll be so many different drafts.
And it's definitely wonderful, like the collaborative nature of filmmaking is what makes it so wonderful and magic. And so you want to hear other people's kind of, and all, it's kind of like you go through this, you know, you get all these notes and you go through, like, it's not necessarily that the note might not be the right note, but there's just something in what they're saying that you have to find it yourself. And it's like, and you know, you do always these solutions that come as a result of the notes that you never would have got to on your own. But I think you always have to take a moment of just going back to what you feel is right, what you think. And then from that moment on, I kind of like, I never did anything. I didn't think the character, you know, I was like, and also keeping the tone right. I think that was the biggest, because with The Last Right, if you nudged it too much one way, it went to forest. And if you nudged it too much the other way, it went to kind of, you know, social realism. So that was the trickiest part of both the writing and not so much the directing actually, but the editing. Writing and the editing, the tone was the trickiest part, because I knew in the shoot, I just wanted the performances to be as straight as possible.
Yes, and it does sell it, and and then it just allows for the humour to happen, and it's based on the situations, which I think is a classic style of comedy. So you said then, so they were the producers attached. You finally had a script that you were happy with. The film board were on board.
Yes, yeah.
They gave 800.
Well, sorry, the game-changing moment that so then once we were happy with the script, E1 came on board.
Oh wow!
And that was still, I mean, I'm still pinching myself that E1 came on board at script stage, and there was a wonderful man who had Alex Hamilton and Poonam. They were really supportive. They were at E1 at the time. Alex Hamilton was head, and they were so supportive of the script and so supportive of me, which again I was amazed by as, like, you know, first-time director, that this massive distributor was coming on board. And then they, when they came on board, then and Dervla Regan, Keith Potter had left the Irish Film Board, and Dervla Regan came in, and she's really, really great in script, because she's so tough on it in a way that is tough when you're going through the process. Like, it's like, oh my god, but it's like, but she's so right, and she's to be that tough, and she made the script so much better. By forcing me to make it better. Do you know what I mean? Like, not by kind of really pushing me. And I think that's, it's, you know, she's brilliant at that. And so that was really great. And so then kind of, and then through Dervla's support and kind of championing, she was really pushing for it to get the highest award, the 800, which was amazing. So between getting that 800 grand and E1's contribution, and then Northern Ireland Screen came on board, which was amazing. And then RTE as well. And the thing that kind of blew me away and still blows me away is that everyone was so supportive of me as a first-time director. And I thought I would have to, I don't know, it was almost the opposite. Like, and Pippa was really supportive of me as a first-time director. It was like, I thought I wasn't too attached when I was writing the script of directing it, because I didn't want to get in its way. But then Pippa was really encouraging of me to do it. And then in the end, the reason I did it was because I genuinely felt like I was the right person to do it, because I was, you know, the thought of someone, like the thought of, to be honest, an English man coming in and directing it and like killing all the Irishness, and kind of was like, would make me lose sleep. So I also kind of, I mean, the chance, probably the most likely would have, just because there's more male directors, it probably, if I hadn't directed it, probably would have ended up with, you know. And I just thought, why let that happen? Like, it's kind of like, it is my baby. I love it. I know the characters. It's terrifying to think of directing it, but like, I think I can do it, and I kind of owe it to the script to try.
And definitely you did an amazing job. So yeah. Oh, what amazing. And thank you so much for chatting with us.
Oh, no worries. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you so much.